Hey guys, so let's continue our conversation about classification. So, yesterday we talked about how classification is what we use to be able to organize or group organisms based on their common features. So, you could have thought about if they have fur or feathers, if they are rod shaped, if they have legs, if they have only 4 legs, if they have 2 legs, if they have 8 legs. All these different things are common features that we have used to be able to classify different organisms into groups. So, how do we actually do that? And what is the biggest group that we've classified the organisms around us into? There are 3 main, large, all encompassing general groups of living organisms. And those groups are called domains. So that's the biggest group, the biggest category, and there's 3 of them. The 3 domains are bacteria, archaea, and eukarya, and that's what makes up all of the life on Earth, from the teeny tiniest little piece of bacteria all the way to the largest animal in the sea, one of the whales, or on land, an elephant. All of those things are either in bacteria, archaea, or eukarya. And we're going to talk about each one of those things over the next few days. Okay? So, let's talk first, just generally, about bacteria domain. If we look at this picture, it shows us this is actually E. coli. So if you've ever gotten a stomach bug, or someone said, like, when you went to the store, the grocery store, and you're going to get something and they said, oh, that has E. coli, so we can't use it. That's what this actually looks like. This is a representation of an E. coli bacterium. Okay? And it's got this flagella, which just means like these long things down here, and the pili, and then this inside of it is actually the DNA. And that's going to be super important because bacteria, one of its features, not only is it a unicellular, and uni means one, so it only has one cell, it also is a prokaryotic. It's a prokaryote. Sometimes it's what they say. Okay, so what it means by being prokaryotic is that it does not have a nucleus. This DNA isn't in a nucleus, it's just all in the little organism, in that one cell. Okay? So they're unicellular, they're prokaryotic, which means they are only one cell and they don't have a nucleus. If you look in there as well, they don't have any organelles that have membranes. All of it's just stuck in there, just without membranes, none of it. Okay? And then lastly, I'm going back. Didn't mean to go backwards. Lastly, they reproduce asexually, which means that only one of them just needs to go through binary fission, which is when it copies all of its DNA and then it splits from each other. They just simply divide, right? So unicellular, only one cell. They do not have a nucleus. They don't have any organelles that are not membrane bound, which means that they have to be within a membrane, and they reproduce asexually. Remember, asexually just means not sexually. Okay, so that was our first domain. That was bacteria. Our second domain is archaea. And I wrote how you should say it, archaea. And some people say archaea, but I say archaea. Maybe it's my accent. I don't know. And here's our picture of this one. Notice it looks really similar to the bacteria. If I go back and look at it, this is bacteria. This is archaea. So very, very similar. Okay? So there is its DNA again. And it's got the pili and the flagella, and it's got all this stuff, but it doesn't have a cell membrane as well. Okay? So its features. Again, it's unicellular. There's only one cell. So this picture right here is showing us one organism. It's one cell. It's prokaryotic. It does not have a nucleus. That DNA is just hanging out in the organism. It doesn't have its own set spot. And it doesn't have any organelles that are not, or it doesn't have any organelles that are membrane bound. So it has no membrane bound organelles. All right, you can see it doesn't have anything in there that has a membrane bound around it. Okay? And again, these reproduce asexually as well. So bacteria and archaea are very similar in their features. None of them are multicellular. They don't have any kind of nucleus. Their DNA is just hanging out. They don't have any membrane-bound organelles, and they reproduce asexually, meaning that they just divide. Only one of them needs to be there, and then it makes it so that it replicates itself and then divides. Okay? That was our second domain. Our third domain is going to be different. This is, again, I put it up here so you know how to say it, eukarya. Eukarya. Okay? So you don't even say that E. You just say eukarya. All right. So you can tell by the pictures that I've placed on here that this is the one that has a lot of different things, and it's the one that we start to think about, and that in a few weeks we'll dive deep into all of the different parts of it. But this is the one that we are actually in, okay? So what are the features of eukarya? This time, many cells. They are multicellular, okay? You can't just have that one cell. It needs to have a lot of cells, and they are specialized cells. So it's a heart cell, it's a lung cell, all those different things within the organism for most of the organisms. They're also eukaryotic. So this is different again. These organisms, their cells have a nucleus. So it's not just DNA hanging out willy-nilly. It has to be in the nucleus packed tight. They also have membrane-bound organelles. Okay? So they have the organelles that when we did the cell unit and we looked at the different types of organelles like the endoplasmic reticulum, like the mitochondria, all those things, that's what these different organisms have. They also reproduce sexually, okay? So that means that they have two parent organisms that give DNA, and when they have their offspring, the offspring is going to be their own certain organism. It's not the exact identical organism like the asexual reproduction produces. Okay? So that was our third one. Let's look at these again. So we have bacteria, we have archaea, we have eukarya. Those are our three main domains. Okay? Again, is it unicellular? For bacteria and archaea, yes, they have unicellular, only one cell. Eukarya does not. Does it have a nucleus? These first two do not. They do not have nucleus or nuclei, but the eukarya does, yes. What about membrane-bound organelles? Hopefully you're remembering in your head that bacteria and archaea do not have membrane-bound organelles, but eukarya does. And asexual reproduction, bacteria and archaea both go through that, but eukarya goes through sexual reproduction. Okay? So these are the three main domains of the entire living world. So this means that now, as we go along in the next few weeks, we'll start getting smaller and smaller in our groups. So this is our biggest group. It's the most general group. But then as we go along, we're going to talk more and more about what is actually in the bacteria domain, what's in the archaea domain, and we'll spend a lot of time on the eukarya domain. Okay? Let us know if you have any questions. This one was pretty quick. Hopefully you understand. Now go on and practice and see if you can remember what's bacteria, what's archaea, and what's eukarya.